40 or right over crest tightens.
Welcome to the special stage rally show in association with the Mini Rally Challenge. Coming up on tonight's show, we've got action from the Pro Tyre, BTRDA and Asphalt Rally Championships. Indeed, we've got action twice over the border in Scotland, first for the Border Counties Rally and then for the Jim Clark Rally. Two fantastic events coming up, but first, look at this. Would you believe we're in the Isle of Man? We've never had it this good. And I'll tell you what, the action was pretty good as well on the 2024 Manx Rally. Rounds 2 and 3 of the Pro Tyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally Championship. Here is how the action unfolded on these famous lanes. The Manx Rally would make up rounds 2 and 3 of the Pro Tyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally Championship, with Friday and Saturday both counting as separate point-scoring rounds for the championship contenders. And over the first day, and indeed the first round, it would be the lead for James Williams and Ross Whittick. Victory from round 1, it would now be 2 from 2 for the pair as far as the title race was concerned. With high expectations and confidence, the same couldn't be said though for Mark Kelly and Will Atkins. They'd been in second place, but a broken brake caliper would force them to retire towards the end of the opening day. They would of course come out on day 2 when they could score some more points for round 3. A similar story as well for Neil Roskell and Di Roberts. The pair had been up in third place, but they'd go off the road on stage 8, and that would be game over as far as the round 2 points were concerned. Just time to get the car sorted and back out for the next day and indeed the following round. So with the early drama, it would be second place by the end of the opening day for Callum Black and Jack Morton. And that wasn't without a bit of drama of their own. Early damage when they took a cut. Brave one at that on stage 1, seeing them drop down the order. But the next loop would see a big fight back, and we know Callum likes one of those to get back up the leaderboard.
No, stupid mistake. I just so fast in this car and I just lost concentration for a little bit. So.
2022 Asphalt Rally champion Steve Wood with Kenny Hull alongside will be lying third by the end of Friday's stages, keeping out of trouble and putting in some good times in the Citroen. Simon Bowen and Craig Simkis would have a lucky escape when they hit a wall. Luckily for them, only causing cosmetic damage on the front wheel, but thankfully as well, not slowing them down. They end the opening day fourth.
We're just lucky then, we just clipped a wall. I don't know what we've done down here. Has it done any damage?
Nothing I can see.
Dry stone wall. It just went up a bank, I don't know what, but anyway, if you're not trying, you're not going to break anything, are you?
Hugh Hunter and Rob Fagg had a big accident on this event last year. That surely must have been playing on their minds just a little coming here in 2024. Thankfully though, no such dramas this time around. A good run over day 1, rewarding them with 5th place and a good haul of points. Damien Toner and Aidan Gallagher would be the first of the Class D runners on our leaderboard by the end of day 1. The Escort pair putting in some strong times to be leading the class and well up the overall leaderboard as well in 6th. Second place in that class would belong to Darren Atkinson and Matty Daniels. Only 8 seconds back from Toner by the end of the day's 9 stages. It was looking like being a close battle for the class this weekend. As far as you're concerned, it's all about the class result.
The class result, yeah, we'll just have to keep it sensible. So, no mistakes now.
Does that mean you're going to keep your eyes off that overall leaderboard tonight?
No, we're not going to slacken off too much, but we'll just keep our eye on the job, and obviously the points are what counts, so it's going well.
As always, on a tough event like this, we do see some attrition, and we'd lose Wayne Jones and David Evans in the Darien, the engine expiring on the 4th stage. The names Mark Higgins and Carl Williamson on a Manx entry conjure up some pictures, and they also give some expectation of a strong result as well. But being out in the relatively unproven David Appleby Engineering TR7 here on the asphalt adds a bit of challenge to those expectations. The pair rising to the challenge well, but it wasn't plain sailing. A few small issues to iron out, but even so, they managed to end the opening day 8th overall.
6 long, okay. Then Care, wall left by minus. 90. Left 6, long, opens over crest, okay. 50. Right 5 minus over crest. 50 Care. Right 4 plus to grid. Bump left. 60, care bump into left 4.
Steve Simpson and Mark Glenister had been coming to the Manx now for many years, so they know the stages well. They also know how to take a good result, and they were going well this weekend with a solid approach. 9th place to finish the day. Rounding out the top 10 at this stage will be William Hill and Richard Crozier, the pair leading the way in Class E as well in that Hills Ford Fiesta Rally 3. Here's a quick look at how some of the classes were looking. And leading the way in Class A, it will be Simon Hunter and Howard Pridmore, the Corsa pair in 57th overall. In Class B, it will be the lead for John Terr and Robert Turton, the Puma pair in 42nd on the leaderboard. And Ben Crump and Ian Beaumont will be a few places ahead of them on the overall leaderboard as well. 39th overall, leading the way in Class C in the Escort. Class H1 would see our Japanese visitors and regulars over here on these Isle of Man lanes, Shinobu and Hiroko Kitani, taking the lead in the class in their fantastic-looking Austin Mini. In the H2 class, meanwhile, it would be Daniel Mundell and Stephen Spear leading the way, the pair lying in 26th overall. Ben and Stephen Smith would be a little further back in the historics than they would have wanted. However, they were leading the way in the H3 class by a very small 3.2 second margin. And in Class H5, it will be the lead for Will Rowlands and Emir Hall, the Pro Tyre Championship pair knocking on the door of a top 10 overall as well with 11. So with day 1 complete, the results at the top of the Manx Rally look like this. Friday, as I mentioned, counting as round 2 of the Pro Tyre Championship. So that means maximum points for Williams. Black managing to rescue 2nd, and he badly needs that for his championship campaign. Steve Wood as well taking 3rd. On to day 2, and with the overall event running over the full 2 days, we'll take a look at those results overall. But first, a couple of crews that frustratingly wouldn't make it to an overall result here on the Isle of Man. We lose John Forrest and Paul Gribben. They went off the road on stage 10, unable to get the car out of the ditch. And as if that wasn't bad enough, to add insult to injury, the same thing would happen to Sean Scanlon and Paul McGlinchey. The, at the moment, relatively unscathed Fiesta was parked in the ditch and it was a sitting duck. The Honda heading straight for it. Further damage for both of these cars. Back to our finishers then, and it would be the Class H5 victory for Will Rowlands and Emir Hall. A well-deserved one as well. They didn't manage to make it into the top 10 overall leaderboard though, settling for 12th in the end. A great result towards their championship class points. In the H4 class, it would all be change. We lose the TR7 of Mark Higgins when he drops down the order, but it would be replaced with another awesome historic car in the shape of that Porsche of Seb Perez and Gary McElhaney. They'd been going well all weekend and take the class win from 14th overall. There's no change in the H3 class though. Ben and Stephen Smith remaining in that position to take victory. They do move the right way up the overall results though into 40th. There'd be some change in H2, a new name at the top of the standings by the end of the event. That class win going to Danny Cowell and Sarah Jane Cool in the Talbot Samba. And the H1 class would remain the same throughout the event. It would be Shinobu and Hiroko Kitani taking the class trophy this weekend. In Class C, it was the Escort of Michael Harbour and Cameron Dunn coming out on top of the standings for day 2. They take the class victory from 36th on the leaderboard. No change to Class B. John Terr and Robert Turton remaining in that position to the finish of the rally. And indeed, a similar story for Simon Hunter and Howard Pridmore too. They keep hold of the lead in the class to take some more points away in that screaming Corsa as far as the championship was concerned. There would, as you might expect, there'd be more drama on day 2, and it was dramatic. We lose Brad Cole and Dan Petrie. They have a big accident on stage 15, breaking the car and Brad's arm. It's game over for this round, and indeed the next few, while he makes a swift recovery, we hope. We would also lose Matthew Dance and Jason Davies. Less painful for this pair. They come to a stop with diff problems on the 12th stage. So we're on to the top 10 overall here on the Manx, and rounding out the top of the leaderboard was Sam Touzle and Matt Edwards. 3-time British champion Matt jumping in with the Jersey driver for some event coaching, as well as the pace notes, of course. A great drive from Touzle would come from that pairing. Philip Hopkins and Sam Allen had been around the top 10 all weekend, eventually ending the rally 9th place overall in the Evo. And Damien Turner and Aidan Gallagher would have a good run on day 2. Not good enough to keep hold of the class win though, settling for 2nd in the class, 8th overall this weekend. William Hill and Richard Crozier, meanwhile, moved the right way on the overall leaderboard. The class win was a good one as well, over a minute of an advantage in that position over their nearest class rivals. If that isn't ominous at this point in the season, I don't know what is. For Steve Simpson and Mark Glenister, it would be a 6th place overall finish here. Quite fitting, as this result puts them into 6th place in the championship now. The same bit of symmetry as well for Darren Atkinson and Matty Daniels. 5th place overall this weekend was a strong end to the rally, and of course the Class D victory was the icing on the cake. Darren lying 5th in the overall Pro Tyre Championship standings now after 3 rounds. No overall result to shout about for Mark Kelly and Will Atkins due to their misfortunes on the opening day. Day 2, all about scoring some important points, and the pair walk away with 5th place from this round. Simon Bowen and Craig Simkis have found their form though, their best run of the season this weekend, managing to get themselves close to a podium finish overall, and those results putting them into 3rd place in the championship standings after round 3. There's frustration for Callum Black and Jack Morton though. Their good comeback from day 1 will be ended on stage 12 when the oil pipe on the car gave up the ghost. They would have been on for a potential maximum points finish on this round as well, had it not been for that problem. How frustrating. Neil Roskell and Di Roberts weren't featuring on the overall leaderboard for the event after yesterday's problems either. But their super rallying on day 2 meant that they were competing for points in round 3. And a good run over today's stages sees them take 3rd place points from this round. 3rd place on the event overall, though, would go to a hard-charging Hugh Hunter and Rob Fagg. Talking about fight back, putting last year's misfortune well and truly behind them and getting some good championship points in the bag, now up to 4th in the standings. A consistently fast run for Steve Wood and Kenny Hull sees them ending the event 2nd overall. And that will be mirrored in the championship standings as well. 2nd place after 3 rounds, and a fight to get another title was well and truly on now. But with no major problems throughout the weekend, despite a few little dramas of their own, it would be victory on the event overall for James Williams and Ross Whitty. Their 1st overall rally win too, and a 3rd maximum score as far as the championship was concerned in that Orange Amplifiers Hyundai. That means they retain the lead of the series as we finish round 3. So here's a look at how the overall results for the 2 days of competition here on the Isle of Man were decided.
Yeah, solid weekend to be fair. I'm just over the moon with the feeling I had in the car and the confidence I had to push on the stages, and that's just been coming this year. We haven't really had that so far, so it's just been really nice to have that. Everything worked well. Ross did an amazing job. The team's done a fantastic job to get me here. All my partners, sponsors and family back home supporting us, and it's just a massive weight off my shoulders to get my 1st win. That was the biggest thing for me. Really needed to tick that box. We said we were going to make a mark on British rallying this year, and that's what we want to do. So I think this result shows that we're going in the right direction.
Well, from the adventure in the Pro Tyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally Championship to a mini adventure. The Mini Rally Challenge were here in big number on the Manx National, and they had a lot of fun on those lanes. Here's a glimpse at what they got up to on these iconic stages.
I was in tears at the end of the stage. It's just, we got to the end of it and it was like a 30-year bucket list item. It's well world known this, and I was actually able to come here and do this.
Mini challenge it's amazing. The camaraderie between everybody helps each other out. We have a laugh, we go for a beer, we take the mic out of each other all the time. It's just brilliant, it's just a great laugh.
Cat left 5 over gravel, flat right 2, 60 very long right 2 over crest gravel.
team's done a great job because we blew a strut up over the mountain and it was very rough and they did it really quickly and we continued and finished the rally. They had a mini adventure.
To finish the Manx is just a massive achievement. So, and to do it 2 years in a row with Guy, I can be happy. I'm be buzzing for the next few days now.
This is right over bridge tight 6. Well held.
Everything this weekend has been up and down. We've had issues, we've had a laugh, we've had fallouts. It's been brilliant. The Manx Rally has just been absolutely brilliant from start to finish. But we finished, so happy days.
You come to the Manx once, you just want to come back all the time, so I understand that now.
It's just superb, really. I mean, we've had a few troubles, but we've got through it and it's a dream come true.
There's no other feeling like it in the world. None whatsoever. Sorry, missus.
2 right. Nicely done. 40. Short 6 left. Don't cut.
You know, I don't mind losing. Beaten by better people. I'm a humble guy.
John saying that, no, I always had it under control, and I was in the seat, co-drive seat, going, oh, I'm not sure about this, here comes the hedge.
Couldn't be better. New car, new team, absolutely brilliant. Finished the Manx.
It's all about people, in my opinion. Good people, good competition, very close racing, and it's cheap, so come and join the mini challenge.
Going through the woods in 5th gear, flat out. Absolutely adrenaline pumping.
Going off on stage 9 down the cliff. That was probably the standout point of the weekend.
Technically, we finished. So there we go.
Fine, we're going to have to turn back round, I think, and go that way.
From the asphalt of the Manx to the gravel of the Scottish borders, and round 3 of the Pro Tyre BTRDA Rally Series, the Border Counties Rally. And there'd be no issues for championship leaders Elliot Payne and Patrick Walsh, who came here leading the championship and left at the top of the standings as well with victory at round 3. For Matthew Hurst and Declan Deer, it will be second. A strong result considering the pair had higher the card this weekend due to issues with their usual one. They'd spent most of the night swapping over parts to try and get something that they will be confident they could push in for a good result. Liam Clark and Emily Easton Page haven't taken long to get up to speed in that rally too, have they? They get their best result together, ending the rally with the final step on the podium. That result putting them 5th in the championship standings after 3 rounds as well. And Russ Thompson and Stephen Link come here second in the championship. A great place to be in that B13 Evo. And with a 4th place finish on the Border Counties Rally, it will be second in the standings after this round. Daniel Sigurdsson and Asta Sigurdottir had been consistent this season so far. In fact, they've managed the same points finish on both rounds so far. And round 3 wasn't looking to be any different at all, taking 5th overall this weekend and, as a result, lying 4th in the championship standings. Eamon Kelly and Niall Burns come here to test out the car, not part of the BTRDA series, but mixing it at the top in 6th overall. A strong position to end the event in that Rally 3 Fiesta. And they were closely followed by Stephen Petch and Michael Wilkinson. Just 2 seconds back, in fact, on the overall timesheets by the finish, taking 7th this weekend. 8th place by the end of the rally would be the Hyundai of John Wink and Keir Beaton. 14 seconds back from Petch up ahead. And Ian Joel and Graham Wood were back and putting in some good times in that crowd favourite Escort Cosworth, finishing just inside our top 10 overall with 9th place. Rounding out the top 10 then would be Alan Carmichael and Dale Bowen. Alan hadn't had a good season so far, failing to finish any rally up until now, so the finish this weekend would be a welcomed one. Let's take a quick look then at some of the class winners, and it would be victory in the B10 class for Barry Lindsay and Caroline Lodge. The Peugeot pair also taking 24th overall. For Nick Dobson and Steve Pugh, it would be a few places higher on the overall leaderboard. 20th place for them, enough to take the B11 class win. Someone who would be frustrated, though, not to take a class victory this weekend would be Max Utting and Robbie Durant. They roll the car down the hillside on the first stage in quite a big way. It's game over for the pair, a little battered, but overall, okay. In the B12 class, it would be victory for Robert Wright and Mark Fisher. They end the event 13th place on the overall leaderboard too. On to the historics, and it would be the H2 win for Will and Karen Graham in the Escort. They take a 22nd overall finish with that as well. Steve Bannister and Callum Atkinson know these stages well, and it showed. The pair taking the historic win, and with it a 16th place overall result. There was only the one crew finishing in the R2 class, so that result would go the way of Lewis Hooper and Rhys Edwards. Lewis crashing out of this event last year, so that result was a welcome one for him. And in the 1400 C class, it will be the MG of Luke Constantine and Anthony Coates. 42nd overall for the pair as well. And in the overall 1400 class and the Bronze Star category, in the Pro Tyre BTRDA, it will be Nigel and Kaz Jenkins coming out on top. The pair now with a 1-point lead in that championship battle after this round. So at the end of a dry and dusty Border Counties rally, the results at the top shaped up like this. With only 2 weeks to get the cars ready for action once again, the Beatsons Building Supplies Jim Clark Rally marks the start of round 4 of the Pro Tyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally Championship. And our championship contenders will be back up against crews from the BRC for the second time this season. Day 1 then would feature 2 loops of stages, including a number of runs through the famous Langton stage. And fastest over the opening day will be Chris Ingram and Alex Kirani. They do have a bit of a lucky moment on the Abbey St Bathans stage when they go wide on this corner, but they get away with it, ending the day with an 8.6 second advantage at the top.
Yeah, look, just loving it, yeah. Very grateful, lucky to be here.
Is it still slippery out there?
Yeah, very, yeah. Good fun though.
Second place will be Keith Cronin and Mikey Galvin. Their BRC season hadn't exactly gone to plan so far, so this weekend will be a chance to change that around. The pair, multiple winners of this event in the past, so they will be confident of challenging going into day 2.
Yeah, we're in a good position overall. Chris is up the road a bit, but if we could hold second, it'll be good.
Will Crichton and Liam Regan were enjoying a consistent season so far, putting the car in the top of the results a number of times. This weekend, it will be 3rd place to end the opening day, but they were 31 seconds off Cronin up ahead. There was frustration on day 1, though, when we see one of the event favourites retire from the event. Oshan Price and Rodri Evans drowned the car out in the water splash, unable to get it going again. There was nothing left to do other than push it back out of the way and spectate. A disappointing early bath for the pair. Ewan Thorburn and Paul Beaton, though, would be upholding the local honours at this stage. They go well on this event and were just 3.4 seconds back from Crichton at this stage. James Ford and Neil Shanks would lead the Pro Tyre Asphalt Championship crews on day 1. They were putting in some great times overall to end the day 5th and with that championship lead. Second of the local crews, though, would be Gary Pearson, and he was on a charge. Daniel Barrett alongside. Gary didn't finish the event last year after crashing out, so a finish this weekend in front of the home crowd was crucial. He was in 6th place for now. And off the back of the disappointment that was the Manx, it would be enough to spur Callum Black and Jack Morton on to push hard for a good result here on the Jim Clark. They end the opening day with 7th overall. Myron Evans and Jonathan Jackson had recently competed in Ireland to try and get some more asphalt seat time in that new Yaris Rally 2. They reached the end of the opening day 8th overall. And Max McRae and Cameron Fair missed the previous round of the BRC due to other commitments. But they were back for this round, and while it wasn't local to Max, now living in Australia, it could surely be classed as a local for a McRae. They were going well, lying in 9th place at the end of the day. And rounding out the top 10 were David Henderson and Chris Lee, 3rd of the Pro Tyre Championship crews on the leaderboard at this stage as well. The Jim Clark this year would give us some serious attrition. One of those crews we'd lose would be Pro Tyre Championship leaders James Williams and Ross Whittle. They'd make it through the opening day, albeit with some issues, but we'd retire on the opening stage of day 2. We'd also lose Mark Kelly and Will Atkins. They lost drive in the 2nd stage, forced to pull over and spectate for the rest of that stage. And we'd see a more abrupt end for Stephen Petch and Michael Wilkinson. They crash into the bridge on the Langton stage, the slippery conditions catching the pair out, and they'd need recovering before the stage could continue. So day 1 complete here on these famous Jim Clark lanes. Here's a quick reminder of how those overall results were shaping up looking at the top of the leaderboard. On to day 2 then, and a look at some of the class winners before we take a look at the overall leaderboard. And in class 8, it will be the victory for Danny Hedges and Patrick Amy. The Armed Forces Land Rovers entertaining out on the stages as always here on the Jim Clark. In class 7, it will be Jeff Roberts and Graham Wild coming out on top. The escort pair finishing in 52nd place overall. Class 5 will be won by Ross Hunter and Martin Woodcock. The Evo pair taking that class victory as well in 16th overall, although they had been higher on the order at times. Darren Atkinson and Harry Stubbs enjoy a good fight in Class 4. They'd come away with the class win. It was also enough to put Darren 3rd in the overall Pro Tyre standings after this round of the series. And in Class 3, it will be Kyle McBride and Dara Mullen who take victory. They'd get caught out on some oil spilled by a previous crew spinning the car, but they get away without any damage to continue to that class win. How often can you say that with an issue like that on the Jim Clark? In Class 2, it will be the Battle of the Novas. The eventual winners Kevin Dunn and Sean Douglas coming out on top, beating Stevie Irwin and Jamie Hope to that victory by just 5.2 seconds. And indeed, it would be a Nova taking the lead of Class 1 as well. Will Mains and Thomas Whittle taking victory there with 59th overall. There's more frustration though. We lose Elliot Payne and Patrick Walsh. They hadn't been having a good event so far, so this was just the straw to break the camel's back. The car catching fire in the 2nd stage of the day with engine failure. Luckily, not catching for long, but the pair had to pull over and into retirement, and it was quite dramatic. Neil Roskell and Di Roberts would have a trouble-filled weekend themselves. Thankfully not as bad as Payne's. They finished lower down than they would have wanted though in 13th overall. But that was enough for a 5th place finish in the Pro Tyre Series. We hadn't finished losing some of our top crews. One of those would be Steve Wood and Kenny Hull. They crash out on day 2. Sadly, no points scored from this round after a good run so far. We'd also lose Hugh Hunter and Rob Fact. A broken water pipe the issue for them, going no further. On to our finishers then, and the top 10 overall. And in that 10th place, it will be Simon Bowen and Craig Simkis. Consistency and that form that we've seen so far this season had been key. And with the loss of a number of our other contenders this weekend, it now means the pair lead the championship overall after this round. 9th at the end of the rally were Dale Robertson and Doug Redpath. The local pair gaining some time to move up the order in the final stages. For Max McRae and Cameron Fair, it will be 1 place gained over day 2, ending their event 8th overall. It was a successful weekend as well for David Henderson and Chris Lees. They end the event 7th overall, enough to put them on the podium in the Pro Tyre Championship finishes as well. Gary Pearson and Daniel Barrett would be happy just to get a finish on this year's Jim Clark. They would, of course, have wanted to be a little closer to the top of the standings, but 6th place was a good end to the event for the pair. Callum Black and Jack Morton managed to add some championship points to their impressive tally so far, much needed after the previous round. They end the rally 2nd in the championship podium, but were still down in 6th on the overall point score for the season after a competitive start to things. So they still had a bit of a way to go to defend the title. But taking maximum Pro Tyre Championship points from the Jim Clark Rally will be James Ford and Neil Shanks. A good run throughout the weekend saw them finish well in the overall finish standings with 4th. It could have been a podium, but damage on the side of the car by the finish of the rally told a very different story and had dropped them down a place in the final stage. 4th gear into a tree can't have been nice, but they get away with it. Onto the podium positions then, and it will be 3rd for Ewan Thorburn and Paul Keating. They take the local honours this weekend with that finish and were one of many to be competing on the next day's Reivers Rally 2, and they go on to win that as well. For Will Crichton and Liam Regan, it would be 2nd. Another good result for them, and they were not short of pace and consistency here, but victories were eluding them so far this season. It can't be long though. There was drama for the rally lead in the early stages of day 2. We lost Chris Ingram and Alex Kirani. They crashed out on stage 9, a slow puncture causing a missed braking point. They broke the suspension on a tree, and it was a bitterly disappointing game over. So that meant that the fight at the top was a little easier for Keith Cronin and Mikey Galvin. And they were still only ahead by 19 seconds by the finish. But most importantly, it marks their first BRC win of the season and puts their championship perhaps back on track. So at the end of the Beatson's Building Supplies Jim Clark Rally, the results looked like this. Keith, Mikey, what a result. This year was a really fiercely competitive one as well.
Yeah, it was huge. Chris was really pushing hard at the start, so we had a good run last night to pull back a bit of time, and then this morning obviously he made a mistake. So yeah, it was a big battle up to that, and then we just had to manage it from there.
Last night, concentration faces were on because the conditions were treacherous. We haven't seen it like that on the Jim Clark for, well, as long as I can remember. And those stages really got you guys concentrating, didn't they?
Yeah, it was my 3rd time being here, and I'd only ever heard about those wet conditions, never seen it for real. But yeah, I was working pretty hard in Aberdeen Battens last night. When the lights came on and the sun went down, I just had the head buried. I didn't get to see a whole pile, so I was just looking at the book and from start to finish. But it was fun. Yeah.
As modest as ever, just looking at the book. Now we know there's a whole lot more to it than that. Another one to add to the tally. But do you start looking at the championship now, Keith?
Yeah, look, it definitely is good for the championship, but as I said after the first 2 rounds, okay, they went bad, but championships are long, and even after this going well, I still say the same thing. Championships are long, you just never know what happens in the next round. We just have to try to keep getting more good points on the board. It's great to have a win under the belt though.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
We know that you go well here, but wow, the pace this weekend.
Yeah, it's been good this weekend. It was a bit steady last night, but yeah, today's been good. The pace has been all right. We've been up with the top guys. It's been better than the start of the year, put it that way. So yeah.
Callum, Jack, you came here with a big job to do and you put that pressure on yourself, but I said it on the live coverage, you love working under pressure inside that car.
Yeah, unfortunately we lost a bit too much time on the second loop in the dark last night. Probably the wrong tyre choice, but I also wasn't committed enough, so bit of a shame because I felt like we had the pace, especially today. But fair play to James, he's on a good charge and he deserves a win.
David, Chris, we know you go well here, we've seen that in the past, and last night you were one of the few crews that just seemed quietly confident of where your rally would go, because you've been there before.
Yeah, I think we always felt we were going to get to the end of it, to be honest, and we took that approach, and that showed in some cautious times last night, but we are ultimately at the end of it, and there's quite a few around.
Last time out on the course in the British Cross Country Championship, it was a very muddy start to the season. In North Yorkshire at Pickering, bad weather in the build-up to the event had left the course thick with mud in places, and it was certainly causing the cars and crews to work hard for those results. Aston Cox took an early lead of the event on day 1, but a throttle sensor problem would drop him back down the order. he wouldn't be the only one having problems either. Richard Kershaw and Anthony Jackson joining the early retirements list. That left the lead of the event to be fought out between Jason Rowlands, Ian Gregg and Paul Rowlands. But an issue on day 2 would see Gregg drop down to 17th overall after a maximum, leaving the family battle for victory, eventually ending with Jason Rowlands taking the victory over Dad Paul. Round 2 of the championship sees the crews head to Wales and into Carey Forest. A completely different challenge for the crews as they take on the narrow forest tracks, and in a complete contrast to the opening round. Any issues this weekend were more likely to be caused by dust. On to the opening morning of competition then, and it would be the early lead for Aston Cox and Simon Kerfoot. They'd had their issues on round 1, preventing them from fighting for the victory, and they weren't going to let that happen this weekend if they could help it. The lead up to the event had even involved a road trip to France to source parts for the gearbox to be repaired. Dedication to the cause and to the course. After 2 runs, they lead the way by 15 seconds. That lead would be over Richard and Mason Kershaw, another pair having problems on the opening round, but theirs were terminal. They were going well this weekend though, with 2nd place overall, happy to be fighting for that lead once again. One person not happy though was former champion Martin Gold, Tom Smith alongside this weekend. They'd unfortunately crashed out of the event in what looked like very dramatic fashion, rolling the car a number of times. Despite it looking pretty bad though, there was minimal damage to the car itself. In fact, once he'd had a little help getting it back on the road, he would drive the car back to service to be repaired, and Gold would be back out again soon afterwards for a few runs before calling it a day. A true testament to how well these cars are built and maintained. 3rd place in the order after run 2 would be Paul Rowlands and Neil Lloyd. The fight at the top was close. The pair only 3 seconds back from Kershaw, and of course only 18 seconds off the lead overall with that as well. So it was still all to play for going into the afternoon. Fresh from their podium on the opening round, it would be a good start to the event for Rob Bull and Philippa Tennant. Just outside our podium positions at this stage in 4th, and happy with how things were going at this early stage in the event. Recent teething problems, including an issue at the opening round, would now be sorted for Dave and Tony Hooper. All that was left to do was build confidence in the car again. Not an easy task, especially on these challenging courses and under pressure. When it was working, the car was more than capable of chasing a podium finish. We've seen that, and they lie first in Class 10 at this stage. For Ian Gregg and Max Lamech, it would be the lead in Class 4, but they were also looking at the overall results, lying in 6th place on the overall order for now, only 3 seconds back from Hooper up ahead. So the opening 2 runs of the event are complete, and the leaderboard is starting to show some battles emerging. With 3 more runs today, it was still a chance for those crews to turn those battles around and change the face of the competition before day 2. Over the next few runs of day 1, there wouldn't be any change in the lead. Aston Cox and Simon Kerfoot continue to hold that advantage at the top. They weren't running away with it though, far from it. They don't manage to extend the advantage any before the end of the day, but they do just have the edge. And that edge was now over Paul Rowlands and Neil Lloyd. The pair had stepped up a place, picking up their pace and moving into 2nd. The podium place is all still very close, the times showing that nobody was certain of a victory just yet. That move from Rowlands, of course, means that Richard and Mason Kershaw take a tumble, but it's only down to 3rd place overall and just 5 seconds back from the pair up ahead. They'd be looking for a big push to try and retake that on day 2 of the competition. Things were moving in the right direction as well for Ian Gregg and Max Lamech. They continue to lead their class, but also move up the overall standings into 4th overall. The gap to the podium positions, however, was growing. Things were not going to plan for Rob Bull and Philippa Tennant. They were having an issue with the car cutting out, resulting in a lot of lost time and frustration. They dropped right down the order into 17th overall, a far cry from their result on round 1, and they needed some luck and some spanners in service. Ben Cundy and Andy Greeny were bringing those run times down throughout the day. The plan was working. No issues to report either, apart from a precautionary change of tyre when they found a split in the sidewall. Not that it had gone down. They'd caught it before it had, so their Class 16 lead was safe thanks to some meticulous and detailed maintenance. They end the day with 5th overall. Dave and Tony Hooper were more than happy with how their progress was looking. No problems, not having to do anything on the car whatsoever. Their only complaint, indeed, this weekend was that they had to walk the course twice, the good old-fashioned way, because, well, they don't have e-bikes yet. A competitive day one comes to a close then. Here's how that overall leaderboard is shaping up. All still very close at the top, still all to play for throughout the class leaderboards and those overall standings on day 2. On to day 2 then, we get to see what a difference a day can make. Here's a look at how the results were decided here in Kerry. Those woes would continue for Rob Bull and Philippa Tennant. The car continuing to cut out and getting worse. They're forced to pull over and call it a day. There were also problems now for Ian Gregg and Max Lamech. They crashed the car through one of the narrow sections of trees, dropping right down the order with 2 maximums to end the day. Pictures here, courtesy of Jason Morgan. Steve Hill and Jim Canterbury have a bit of a moment on the fast part of the course, but nothing that they couldn't gather up. They were happy with their result this weekend, perhaps just counting themselves lucky as they take the Class 18 victory, as well as a fantastic 6th place overall. The car, faultless all weekend. Jason Rowlands and Liam Dudley had managed to climb their way back up the order by the end of the event, taking 5th overall, 2nd in Class 8. That result enough to keep them 2nd in the championship hunt after round 2. Dave and Tony Hooper might have made a slow start to the day, but a quick regroup and they were back to setting some top times. They take the Class 10 victory, 4th place overall, and with a non-championship crew ahead, it would mean 3rd place points for the pair this weekend. Not a bad day out. That crew ahead, mixing it with our championship front runners and perhaps wondering if they should have come out for a full campaign, would be Ben Cundy and Andy Greeny. The trophy championship crew, of course, taking the top spot in that. And this result means that they lead the way in the British Cross Country Championship trophy after 2 rounds. Not bad for only 21 years old. Despite a valiant effort, there was nothing that Paul Rowlands and Neil Lloyd could do to get to the top step of the results, but they do hold on to the leaders, keeping them close and within their sights. They take 2nd place overall this weekend, winning Class 5, and this result means that they lead the championship after round 2. But all of that, if you've been keeping up, means that with a lead in the event from start to finish, it will be the first British cross-country win in the bag for Aston Cox and Simon Kerfoot. A dream result for the pair, and one that they'd welcome after their problems at the opening round. They do enough here to lie 3rd in the championship standings. So with the event complete, here's a reminder of how those results were decided after the 2nd round of the British Cross Country Championship. Next up, our crews have a short break, returning in July with round 3. We expect that to be as action-packed as ever, and we'll be there to bring you all of the action. I said at the start of this season that 2024 would be the year of the rally car. It really feels like the sport is building up to something, and we are never short of action to bring you here in the special stage rally show in association with the Mini Rally Challenge. I hope you'll agree. That was a fantastic snapshot of action across UK rallying and beyond as well. We'll see you next time for the Special Stage Rally Show. In the meantime, don't forget to tune in for the Special Stage TV for all of our live and highlights packages.
Here, 40 for Raidable Crest Titans.